Back for another edition of In the Huddle. Carl Dukes, put him up, along with my man Brian Baldinger, and of course Jason Lock-on-4 are part of this podcast as well. Baldy, as we get closer to the draft, things are happening around the NFL, and yesterday, a huge bombshell. I think a lot of folks like us who are close to this kind of realize this might be in the works, but the Buffalo Bills trade Stefon Diggs away to the Houston Texans, and I want to start there because this is a monumental trade for both sides. The Bills, I don't believe, Baldy, are as good as they were to start the season last year with all the losses that they've had now in this offseason, whether it be casualties or moves like this, and then the Houston Texans. So let's first talk about the trade. What did you think?
Well, I didn't really understand it, to be honest with you, because Stefon Diggs has been a big part of their success. Got a lot of touchdown passes, been the number one wide receiver by a mile, most targeted receiver in the NFL over the last 4 years. All that. But I understand that they changed direction when Ken Dorsey got fired. Joe Brady got elevated. They became a run-first team. They got their two tight ends on the field. No longer are they just spreading you out like they were when Stefon Diggs just first got there. And they threw the ball, and if it wasn't there, Josh Allen ran it. That offense changed drastically. When they were 5-5, they lost to Denver, 24-22. The next day, they fired Ken Dorsey. Joe Brady comes in, and they win 5 of the last 6. They get to the playoffs, win the division. I get the change. You still got to throw it on third down. You still got to score in the red zone. You still have to throw it. So when you find out that they're taking a $31 million hit by releasing or trading Stefon Diggs. And next year, if they kept him for a year, they don't have any cap hit.
Yeah.
Now, you might not get much for him then, but you're getting a second-round pick next year, 2025. I thought Houston basically stole Stefon Diggs, and they got better, and Buffalo got worse. Now, I went on TV last night and said, look, they'll draft a receiver. But, the longer I think about it, I go, this cap hit doesn't make any sense. To anybody, when you don't have to have it. They said they ran it by Josh Allen. I can't believe he approved of it. It doesn't, you could say, okay, there's some antics on the sideline. That's true. But a lot of teams have dealt with that. You just deal with it in-house. You deal with like they have. He's still productive. He still got 107 passes last year. And you can say, okay, he dropped one against Kansas City. They all drop them. Sometimes it's in big moments. Every receiver drops them. But I didn't really understand this from Buffalo's standpoint.
Baldy, it's funny you mentioned, sideline blow-ups, and a lot of people are saying that it had run its course with Stefon Diggs. Here's what we know, right, in the NFL. Talented players who may be difficult, and I'm not saying Stefon is. I think he was just frustrated like guys are when they're losing or they're not getting the ball. That's just a part of being a competitor. But when you are talented, teams are willing to put up with a little bit more than when you're not talented. And I think when you look at Buffalo, it's almost as if the front office, and we're just speculating here because no one said this to us, but it's almost as if the front office said, we've had enough, we're throwing our hands up, and we're going to take a $30 million cap hit. The only time you take a $30 million cap hit is if a guy's been a real knucklehead off the field.
Yeah.
I.e. Antonio Brown with the Steelers, where it just became untenable and you just go, hey, look, we can't deal with this anymore. Mike Tomlin's had enough. We're moving on. It made total sense. This didn't. But with that said, Baldy, is the window closed for Buffalo? Because now you look at that roster, as good as Josh Allen is, you still need other guys around you.
Yeah. No, I don't know if it's closed because Josh Allen is just that good. And we'll see, how he can. I think there'll be a 2 tight end set with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. I think things have changed. Is it closed? Defensively, they went backwards last year. They suffered all the injuries. They weren't very good. Some of the guys they've drafted high, Gregory Rousseau, Ed Oliver, AJ Epinesa. I mean, they drafted all those defensive linemen very high. They don't seem to be making big impacts in big games. They put up over the course of a season, they'll put up some numbers, but in big games, you're not calling their names. So I think defensively, they look like they filled some gaps, but I know they had a lot of injuries last year. Is it closed? I don't think it's closed, but I would say that the Jets, if they're healthy, reasonably healthy, if Miami is reasonably healthy, I mean, I think you could say that all those teams are capable of bypassing Buffalo this year.
So let's talk about Houston on the other side. 3 wins the year before. They hired DeMeco Ryans. They get the right quarterback. They get the right edge rusher and Will Anderson. Both guys rookies of the year. And now you add Stefon Diggs. You add Joe Mixon, who's disgruntled and pissed off that he got traded. You already have all these guys, Tank Dell, etc. Nico, how good are the Texans going to be, Baldy?
Well, I think as soon as the trade was consummated and I heard about it, I was like, okay, they're right there competing with Kansas City. Are they number 2 to Kansas City, to Baltimore? But you can mention anybody in the AFC at the top of the leaderboard, whether it's Baltimore, Kansas City, of course. You know, you can throw some teams out there, but you can't have the conversation not include Houston right now. And I think part of the conversation, like there was no question they were all in on Saquon. They didn't get him. They wanted Saquon. They wanted to star in the – and what it said, even though they didn't get Saquon, was we got our guy. We got CJ. Now let's give him everything we can to allow him to be as successful as possible. And so you get to Neil Hunter. You get to Nico Autry. You get Foley Fatukasi. Let's build the defensive front. Let's get it 8 deep the way it was in San Francisco when they went to a Super Bowl when DeMeco was there. They're doing everything right. Everything right. And they're all in. And that's what they're saying to their fan base. That's what they're saying to the NFL. Like, we'll take – and I just think that the conversation that probably took place with Nick and with DeMeco was, all right, look, sometimes it appears that Stefon can be a handful.
Yeah.
Do we have the people in place to handle it? Can DeMeco handle it? Can CJ in the huddle handle it? I think they can. And I know Stefon pretty good. Like, he is a ball of fun to be around. He's awesome with fans. The fans are going to love him. Pre-game, every game. Pre-game. On the road, at home, he's having a ball catch with the kids he's taking pictures with the kids. Like, his pre-game routine is about as fan-friendly as any player in this league. He loves doing it. So I think it kind of relaxes him a little bit before the game, but he enjoys it. It's a great thing to see. I think DeMeco and CJ said, let's go. Let's load up and let's go for it.
Yeah. Listen, I don't think we can put anybody in front of the Chiefs, nor will we, even after the draft, because it's what it is. But you do 2 things in the offseason, guys. And that's why the draft coming up is just such a huge ordeal. You either get better or you get worse. Mm-hmm. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are worse. Mm-hmm. Just on paper. Yeah. They could come out and be gangbusters and be better, but on paper, when you look at the roster experience, depth, playmaking, they're worse. The Houston Texans appear to be better, and that is the only thing that we're going off of right here. With that said, one last thing about this trade. We're talking about the Stefon Diggs trade. It's in the huddle. Subscribe, like us, and tell your friends, guys. Carl Dukes, Brian Baldinger, Jason Locke on 4, and we've got a lot of draft stuff coming up here over the next couple of weeks. Are the Bills asking Josh to do too much, though? I mean, like, it feels like all of this weight is on his shoulders, Baldy.
Well, I mean, he ran for 15 touchdowns last year, Carl. I mean, like this, you look at the number of carries down in the second half of the season. Now, James Cook got a bunch of them, and he exploded, and he had his breakout year. And it was built around the run game. But it felt like Josh Allen was just like not so much throwing it. They wanted to take away some of the throws that were leading to interceptions, trying to bail guys out and, try to, make those hero-type plays. And they said, if we run the ball, we can limit some of the turnovers. And they did considerably. But long-term, I mean, there's nobody else like Josh Allen out there. Nobody takes guys on, runs it as much, runs through guys, gets up, never seems to be shaken up by anything. You just wonder how long that he can survive playing that style of football right now.
Yeah, that's the concern is if he feels that weight, he feels like he needs to do more. Maybe he takes off a little bit more. Maybe he tries to do too much, and maybe he puts himself in harm's way more than he has. And that's a little bit of my concern. But we'll see what they do in the draft. Maybe they go get one of these dynamic receivers. The problem is, guys, you just gave up a guy that was a 4-time Pro Bowler and led everybody in receptions over the last 4 years, including Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. The guy that had more catches is the guy that's now on his way to Houston. So that's what you're giving up if you're Buffalo, Baldy. And
the other part to this, and I know Nick Caserio addressed it in Houston, not before this trade, but earlier this, I think at the owners' meeting or at the combine, one of the two. But anyways, like Buffalo was number one in the NFL last year, third down conversions. They converted 50% of their third downs. Now, some of that is just Josh Allen's playmaking ability, but a big part of it is, okay, Stefon Diggs has Darius Slay on him. Stefon Diggs has so-and-so on him. Like, he can beat your best corner. He can beat your bracket coverage. And when the play did break down, Stefon Diggs, like some of the great receivers that have played in this game, they come to the rescue. Nobody runs scramble drills better than some of these elite receivers. A.J. Brown does it in Philly. Stefon Diggs has done it in Buffalo. Now, when you don't have that guy and all of a sudden that free hitter is coming at Josh Allen, and you don't have that guy, maybe the rookie will learn it. Typically, it's not something rookies coming on the field and know how to do right away. Stefon Diggs understood. As soon as he saw his quarterback in trouble, he adjusted. And he got into his vision, and usually he became the primary receiver. That is a skill. I put it out yesterday on Total Access, the skill set of Stefon. The route running, he's a router. But third downs and scramble drills, plays broken down, that guy is an elite performer. And you can say he dropped off, he did all this stuff. The offense changed. Stefon didn't change. He's bringing that skill set to Houston.
Yeah, listen, I like Stefon. As I said yesterday on social media, like C.J. Stroud right now is like, let's go. You know what I mean? Because he knows, to your point, Baldy, not that he wants to, but you can make a mistake with this kind of player and he can make up for it, right? That's
no doubt.
That's what we're talking about. All right, we got a lot more to get to. We're going to talk about draft needs of Tampa, Green Bay, Dallas, Cleveland. We've been going from the back of the draft all the way up. We'll continue today and talk about the needs of those teams when we come back on In the Huddle. Carl Dukes along with Brian Baldinger. Baldy, let's get into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, we know they got their quarterback in Baker Mayfield. As we approach the draft here, just now, a few weeks away. I mean, it's coming. Tampa's looking at a situation where they won their division, the NFC South. It was a weak division. We know that. But they think, hey, why can't we run this back and get into the playoffs again? They felt good about going on the road and playing Detroit. They probably thought they should have been, in that game a little bit more and probably won it. But nevertheless, draft needs for Tampa. Let's talk a little bit about this because we know what they've lost. What do you think they have to address? Specifically, maybe in the first round. I think they're picking 26th.
Yeah, they've got 4 of the first 100 picks in this draft. Jason Light has got some luxuries. They obviously, they made Baker their long-term quarterback here. Mike Evans, Godwin, they're back in. Got some young tight ends. They've been addressing the defense line. Last year, Kalijah Kancey came in, looked pretty good. They have been building up that side. There's a couple ways. One, it seems like the secondary that helped them win a Super Bowl, whether it was Carlton Davis or Sean Murphy-Bunting, they're all gone. I feel like the Bucs at 26 can go corner and they can go offensive line. I believe they can. This is a good draft for centers.
Yeah.
And so at that 26th pick, Graham Barton, like it makes a ton of sense. Like because they haven't run the ball very well. Tristan Wirfs is still an elite player, went from right side to left side. They've been adding pieces, but I feel like they need to upgrade the center position. And since Ryan Jensen really went down 2 years ago with the injury, I know the guys that have played there. I feel like they could upgrade that. They haven't run the ball well at all. Even when Brady was there, they didn't run it well. But I feel like they need to get more balance in offense. I feel like they could go offensive line or they could go corner with the 26th pick right now.
Yeah. What's interesting is they could be good again, right? I mean, like you talk about those guys coming back. Offensively, though, it's still about protecting Baker. That's why I'm leaning offensive line with you. By the way, is this center draft better than it has been in recent years?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe you've got a star player right now. When you look at Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, like I don't know that he gets
the credit.
20 picks. Like you want to go fix your offense line, it usually starts with fixing your center. Like Denver needs a center. I mean, I could put them in a couple different places right now, and you're going to upgrade and go. Last year, we saw a lot of centers go in the second round. Joe Tippmann to the Jets, John Michael Schmitz to the Giants. We saw center, but I feel like Graham Barton, who played left tackle at Duke, did a breakdown on him this week. He played center as a freshman. There's Zach Frazier at West Virginia. Like, I think there's I think there's 3 or 4 guys that you could get up into the first half of the second round, and I just mentioned them, that I feel can upgrade your center position immediately. You can plug them and play them, and they can.
Jackson Powers Johnson was the top center in college football, right? Out of Oregon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talk about Ryan Jensen retiring and stepping in and filling those big shoes as we talk about draft needs. Tampa is picking 26. Again, first round, we'll see what happens over the course of their picks over the 4 days of the NFL draft. But that is a need that they will definitely have to address, and they probably will do it at 26. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, who are picking 25th. They have 11 draft picks, Baldy, in this draft. And you start saying, okay, I like Jordan Love. I like the young wide receiving core. This is the youngest team in football. They picked 25th overall. Where do you go if you're the Packers?
You just keep building. I think they had 13 picks last year. We saw Musgrave play well. We saw, Lucas Van Ness step in and rotate in there with their defensive ends, Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, all the guys. They lost John Runyon at left guard, right guard. John Runyon's been a really good player for him.
Yeah.
He's three-year starter. They have been, obviously, when you watch them against Dallas with Aaron Jones, they ran the ball right down their throats. They ran the ball against, everybody that San Francisco. They ran it exceptionally well. I think, and look, Rasheed Walker played left tackle. I like Rasheed. He was a 7th-round pick, Carl. Like,
wow.
You look at David Bakhtiari, he's not there.
Right.
Like, they could go offensive line and just keep building up front. And obviously with Josh Jacobs coming, continue to be able to run the ball when they have to run it. In a playoff game, in a big spot, on the road, the things that we have seen Aaron Jones do for the last 6 years. Like, can they keep that rolling up front? I think the tight ends are there. I think you could go center guard tackle, and you wouldn't be wrong right now. I feel like the skilled positions at receiver, we've seen all these young receivers flourish. Last year, what they did with Jaden Reed was amazing, what they did with him and how he came on as a 2nd-round pick. So I feel like they're good there. Defensively, they went out and got Xavier McKinney from the New York Giants in free agency. I mean, that probably was the Giants' best defensive player. He's one of those do-all safeties, and they rewarded him and made him a member of that defense. They've changed coordinators on that side of the ball. I feel like offensive line and maybe secondary help, at the corner position, might be a good move for them.
Baldy, listen, we talk about the gambling aspect. We get our guy Nick Costos on throughout the course of the season to help us break down some of this stuff. Right now, before the draft, Green Bay is over under 10.5 wins. I'm buying it, Baldy. I mean, I don't think the Bears, given Caleb Williams, whatever they do, they're not winning that division. That's me. Minnesota loses Kirk Cousins. They take a step back. Like, I feel like all of a sudden here we are again where it's Green Bay's division when it was Aaron Rodgers or it was Brett Favre, and now all of a sudden here's Love, and it's his division to lose. But I think 10.5, I'm going over, Baldy. Like right now, even without knowing what they've done or going to do in the draft.
Well, the one thing the Packers do probably better than anybody else is they have a succession plan at quarterback. And we didn't know what Jordan Love was going to be. I remember talking to his college coach, Matt Wells.
Yeah.
And he coached him at Utah State. And he just said, look, he's got all the talent you need. He probably needs to go to a place where he can sit and he can learn. And what a tutor, what Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, they all were. And it allowed him to sit. And then last year, I think, especially down the stretch and in the playoffs, he opened everybody's eyes going, Green Bay got this right. And when you get that position right, Carl, it's amazing how quickly everything else can come together. And the one thing about Jordan Love that really changed things in Green Bay was if you look at Brett Favre, if you look at Aaron Rodgers, it took a long time for receivers to become the number one or Jordy Nelson. Right. I mean, you look at Devontae Adams. They weren't Jordy Nelson, and Devontae year one or even year two. Starting with Sterling Sharp, you had to earn your keep. And you had to earn your way to become that number one guy. Last year, you saw Jaden Reed step right in. You saw Romeo Dobbs. Like these young guys stepped to Christian Watson when he was healthy. These young guys stepped up fast, and that's a credit to Jordan Love.
All right, we got to talk about the Cowboys, and we will. 12 wins the last 3 seasons, but let's be honest, nothing to show for it. They need to improve in the draft. They have draft needs, and we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns as well when we come back on In the Huddle. Carl Dukes along with Brian Baldinger. It's In the Huddle. Jason Lock-on-4 are part of this podcast as well as we take a look from the back half of the draft, guys. We're working our way up. We've been talking about all these teams. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys at 24, Baldy, because I look at the Cowboys and I go, okay, really good team. The Dak thing, they've got to, figure out what they're going to do there. It'll work itself out. Whether they don't do anything, so be it. But what are their top needs when we talk about this upcoming draft, especially with them drafting at 24 in the first round?
Well, I mean, I can tell you right now they're going to draft an offensive lineman. They just lost Tyron Smith and Tyler Biadasz. They lost 2 starters.
Yep.
2 good players. And so Tyler Biadasz was the, heir apparent to Travis Frederick when he retired. And I thought he improved steadily, but he's gone. He's in Washington. Tyron Smith is with the Jets. I mean, you can look at all the issues that are facing the Cowboys. Like, I don't know why they're in salary cap hell and why they had 15 free agents and Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong and all these guys flew the coop. And you just look, I played with the Cowboys, Carl. I know that history, that organization from the day they for 1960. They've always had a star running back.
Yes.
Walt Garrison, Dan Reeves, Tony Dorsett, Emmitt Smith, Zeke. Yep. Like, I don't know what they're going to line up with that running back, but whoever they draft, like I thought Derrick Henry came out, this week and said, no, I live in Dallas. I was hoping to get a phone call from him. Wow. I would have probably gone there.
Yeah.
But, whether it's salary cap, whatever the issues are, like Tony Pollard, Stephon Gilmore, starting offensive linemen, they're a big drain of talent from that team. But they have had success drafting offensive linemen. They've had a lot of success. I remember when Travis Frederick was a first-round pick and people thought they lost their minds. Like, he was a third-round pick at best. That's what they all said. And he was a first-team All-Pro center. So, and a multiple Pro Bowl center. Tyron Smith has been a first-team All-Pro left tackle. He's just got these set of vice grips on him. Tyler Smith is a good pick. They got to decide, is he a guard or a tackle? And then they got to decide, if he is a tackle, do you need help inside? And the centers I mentioned earlier, they could all be in play. But I feel like they've got, no matter what they do at running back or defense, whatever else in this draft, they have to upgrade their offensive line, losing starters and some of the depth that they had behind those starters as well.
So, Baldy, here's another concern, and we talked about this. We're talking about the Cowboys. They picked 24th in the first round. And again, guys, we're not assuming any trades. We know all this stuff could change. Yeah. We're going directly with the order in which things are right now. So, but we talked about this when they lost to Green Bay. And I think it was Jordan Love afterwards, maybe on a podcast, where he said they asked him about the game plan. And he was like, we wanted to run right at these guys. And they did. They're a little smallish at linebacker. There's depth issues at linebacker. Is that something else they are going to try to address? Now, I agree with you. You can't do it in the first round. I don't think you do that in the first round. But that's another concern, right? How do you upgrade that with your new defensive coordinator now?
Well, I've talked to Micah about it. I mean, they're playing a dime defense, and Marquise Bell's playing linebacker. He's a pumped-up safety.
Yeah.
Leighton Vander Esch retired. They brought in Eric Kendricks. Okay. He's in his 11th or 12th year. Damian Clark is there. they don't have much there. And they didn't do anything in free agency, obviously, outside of signing Eric Hendricks. So it's a big hole. It's a big hole. And, Mike Zimmer's got to figure out how to fill it. And I don't believe playing one linebacker when teams like Green Bay want to run it down your throat and you can't stop it. And Micah, you can't just go, okay, we'll put Micah at inside linebacker. That's not fair to him. He's a tremendous edge rusher. You can put him back there in certain situations where he can rush the middle. Maybe it's a changeup, but you don't want to play Micah off the ball inside linebacker. You just I think you negate a lot of his strengths. So they have to address that position for sure.
All right. By the way, over under for the Cowboys, 10.5 as well. If you're curious, they've won 12 games, as we said, the last 3 seasons. So, most people will probably jump on that. I'm a little reluctant right now because of what you talked about. Listen, Baldy, you know this. It starts up front. If you can't protect that guy, it's an issue. I don't care how talented or good he is. And I'm a little I think the Cowboys are a double-digit win team. I just don't know if they win 12 or 13 or 14. Like that to me this year feels like a stretch. And we'll see what happens. They got to get this draft right to your point about the O-line. If they're not protecting Dak and they don't have a running game, this thing's a wrap. Like if you're the Eagles and you're looking at that defense, I think the Commanders will be better with Dan Quinn there defensively. Like I just feel like
I feel like the Cowboys have to come away with 2 stud starters on offense, a running back and an offensive lineman. I mean, plug play, and they hit the field running, and they're impactful players. Like it has to be now defensively, linebacker, they need help there too. But on offense, if they want to keep this thing going, and they were number 1 offensive football last year, you want to put up all those points they scored. You better get an offensive lineman and a starting running back, at least 1 lineman. You might need 2, but that's a lot out of any draft to get 2 starting offensive linemen and a starting running back and address your defense. But if they can get an impactful start, and this is a great draft for linemen, whether you want centers or tackles, picking 24, you're going to have, especially if these quarterbacks and receivers get pushed up, Carl, and the 1 or 2 edge rushers or corners, like they could have a really good offensive lineman looking right at them at center or tackle that they could, I think, really, upgrade the losses that they've had.
Yeah, and Baldy, it's the Cowboys. We know this. People talk about them good or bad. I just feel like Jerry, when he went to the coaches and the owners meeting down there in Orlando, and was like, "We're good," talking about Dak, and he's like, "We're in a great place," and I'm like, I don't know. So it's going to be interesting. All right, before we get out of here, look, we were going to talk about Cleveland, but I want to correct something here. Minnesota has the 23rd overall pick from Cleveland through Houston. Okay,
along with your 11th pick.
Okay, so I want to talk about Minnesota. I don't want to. Let's talk about Minnesota because we've talked about Tampa and the Packers and the Cowboys. Cleveland was supposed to have that pick again. Minnesota from Cleveland through Houston. So now you're telling me they have 2 first-rounders, correct?
Yes.
All right. What do? They lost Kirk Cousins, right? They are a team that, again, I feel like might have been right there last season if Cousins didn't get hurt, right? He was playing great. We know that. MVP caliber stuff. But talk to me about Minnesota, Baldy, because, as I said, that division, you look at the Bears and the Packers, I think like Minnesota had a shot, and all of a sudden, speaking of windows closing now, this is kind of their window has closed, and they need to retool.
Well, I mean, and they also lost Justin Jefferson to hamstring injury early in the year. So you lose the best receiver in football, arguably, for a big stretch. They allowed Jordan Addison to step up. But between Addison, Jefferson, Hawkinson, I mean, they're set. This is about the quarterback right now. And look, Sam Darnold, look, whether he was rehabilitated, whether he, saw how things actually should work when he was there in San Francisco and started his final game, we really don't know. He's never had stability until he backed up Brock Purdy this year. And I talked to him a number of different times. Like he looked like it was, okay, now my NFL career can start. And now they paid him enough money to be the starter. But I think Kevin O'Connell understands. He comes from a really strong tree in this business, Sean McVay.
Yeah.
You win with a great quarterback. And the younger, the better to just kind of start things. And not that Sam can't rehabilitate like Baker did and do something really, really good. But I don't know that I feel like they made that trade in large part to have the ammunition. If they want to go get a guy, they could go get a guy. When you look at Drake May, Josh McCown, Josh McCown coached him in high school in Charlotte. You look at why Sam Darnold is there. Well, Josh McCown and Sam Darnold drove to practice with the Jets every day. When Sam Darnold, they signed Josh McCown in New York when they drafted Sam Darnold. They wanted a veteran with them. Well, now here's Josh McCown, the quarterback coach of Minnesota, going to work with Sam Darnold every day. It's like they're reunited. Like these friendships, these unions, they run deep.
Yeah.
And so can they get Drake May? Do they have enough to go get Drake May? Because that would be a great situation for Drake. If Sam Darnold is there, takes the pressure off him, like they're not overspending for the quarterback position. If they can pull that off somehow, like I feel like they would do that. Or, I think JJ McCarthy's in the mix. Like I feel like they're definitely going to make a move for a quarterback. And I don't think they're going to sit there at 11 and just wait for whoever's there. I think they're targeting certain guys. Brian Flores fixed the defense last year. I know they lost Daniil Hunter. They lost some players, but, Jonathan Greenard came in. They restocked their shelves pretty good. I feel like quarterback is where they're going. And it's just a question, do they make this trade before the draft, Carl? Do they wait and see if somebody drops? Mm-hmm. I think if you wait, you're waiting too long. I think this is a type of a deal like we saw with Trey Lance, like we saw with, Jared Goff, with Carson Wentz. I feel like this is a deal that's going to get made before the draft. Like in the next 3 weeks, I feel like a trade could be made with Minnesota and maybe New England. Who knows? To be able to move up and maybe, be able to get their guy.
Do you think, hindsight's 2020 and we don't know, but the Cousins thing, do you think they should have gone harder and tried to keep him?
It sounded to me like it was just about the terms of the contract.
Yeah.
Atlanta was prepared to give him a 4-year deal. And that's what Kirk wanted. He's 35 years old, I think. He wanted a security. And Minnesota, it looked like it was a 3-year deal at most. And maybe they could get out of it after a year. I don't know exactly the structure. Yeah. But I think the terms are what drove Kirk to Atlanta. And so did they get out? It all depends on what they end up doing, Carl. Like hindsight's going to play it out. But if they make this trade with Houston and they package this deal to move up and get their guy in the future and they get the right guy, see you, Kirk. Thanks for everything that you did. We won a lot of games and we had a lot of fun. But I think this is Kevin O'Connell's chance right here to really build the team.
Yeah.
In his eyes.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, and the Cousins deal, Baldy, the way I've been describing it is it's a 3-year deal when you look at the money. The fourth year doesn't have any guaranteed money. Right. So first 2 years, 45, 45, 10. If you wanted to get out the third year, you take a small cap hit. Fourth year, if he's balling out, you don't have any guaranteed money on the deal. It's a win for the Falcons, and for Cousins, he gets the full amount of his contract, right, at the end of the day. So, yeah, I'm with you. I just don't know if people say, was that a mistake? We're going to have to wait and see. Mm-hmm. Baldy, one other thing. Corner, do they address defense? Brian Flores, do they address defense in this with this two first-round picks?
Yeah, I think they can. Byron Murphy came in, played really well for him last year. They had some young players there. Harrison Smith was re-signed. Cam Bynum is like right there on the cusp of being a great player. I think that they could certainly use another corner right now. And so they drafted Mekhi Blackman last year at USC. Right. And we're going to see if he develops. But the way Brian Flores wants to play with so many of those blitz-heavy looks that he loves to do, you better be able to hold up on the back end when you actually send the whole house at somebody.
All right, Baldy, great stuff. We're back, guys. the big trade, Stefon Diggs. I don't know if deals are done. Like Baldy said, stuff could be looming as we speak. And we're going to talk about the other teams as we count down in this draft. Philly, Dolphins, Steelers, Rams, Bengals, Jags. We're going to get into that top 10 where a lot of people feel like they know what's going to happen, but you don't. So you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to get into all of that. Baldy, great job as always. We'll talk to you guys next week, and make sure you subscribe, like us, watch us in the Huddle Pod on YouTube. Brian Baldinger, Carl Dukes. We'll talk to you guys soon.